The most beautiful example that defies the concept of obsolescence is human relations that involve emotions and memories to cherish. The relations that can only be repaired but never replaced. When you apply that concept of obsolescence to products and material things, there's virtually nothing that escapes it, except for the one that lasts with us and then takes the time. 1969 revealed the world's first quartz watch by Seiko, called as Strong, that was 100 times more accurate than standard mechanical watch, much cheaper with little maintenance costs, and inclined the masses to quartz, leaving behind the mechanical watches. The Swiss watch companies dropped from 1600 to only 600 and their employees from 90,000 to under 30,000. Adversity reveals the best in man, and with challenging times, somewhere someone had to think out of the box and take a course of action that could save the company and the mechanical watch industry. The decline and the fall of mechanical watches were imminent, and the mass-produced quartz watches were almost vanishing mechanical watches at an alarming pace. With more than 2/3 of Swiss and mechanical watch companies closing down, Audemars Piguet came up with the idea to make something different. A watch that is so revolutionary that all the rules of traditional watchmaking are broken. In the times when watches were produced for function and dedicated activities like diving, flights, landing to moon and exploration, the idea was born to produce something that, besides the function of telling the time, delivers highest level of craftsmanship and finest example of watchmaking, but in a flash that is versatile and can be worn every day. To make the idea work, AP reached out to Gerald Genta, the most popular jewelry designer of the time, to sketch a watch like never seen before. Genta took one day to sketch the first integrated bracelet watch that would soon be called as Royal Oak and mark the birth of first luxury steel watch. This was practically the first watch where bracelet received the same level of attention and degree of treatment, including the brushing, polishing, chamfering and angles as the watch case, hence the concept of integrated bracelet watch, meaning there is no as such boundary between where the case ends and the bracelet begins. The effort, machining, brushing and polishing required to meet the specifications for steel provided by Genta for the watch was so high that the final product was more expensive than Patek Philippe gold watches and 10 times over the cost of Rolex Submariner of the time. Inspired from traditional diving helmet, the Royal Oak came with octagonal bezel and 8 exposed screws and the integrated bracelet to feature the world's first luxury watch made of steel. The watch design and profile broke not only all the rules for watchmaking but also any luxurious product. With visible screws on the bezel, exposed gasket between the bezel and the case, an octagonal shape breaking the fluidity of the bezel, angular and bold profiles as opposed to traditional smooth and rounded corners, bigger case of 39mm at the time when smaller watches was the trend, material used being stainless steel, which was used in watches less than 100 times the cost of the integrated bracelet watch, and at the time when anything luxurious was only made of precious metals, and then a first steel watch in history to cost more than gold or precious metal watches. Royal Oak made a daring and a very bold statement by AP. And the message was not only groundbreaking but very clear. You don't need to wear gold or precious metal to display luxury or class. Rather, the steel machined by hand to perfection and the attention to detail extending to the smallest of the links of the bracelet, let aside the watch case, is what defines the luxury, prestige and the class. That is, the craftsmanship and handcrafting on even steel is what constitutes a true luxury. And the most beautiful and interesting thing about this watch is that it defies the concept of obsolescence too. Close to 50 years since its original launch, and this watch is unchanged from its original design. The hour markers, the dial layout, the tapestry pattern, the hour and minute hands, the placement of AP logo, the date position, everything matches with what it was like back in 1972 when it was first produced, or 1971 when it was first sketched by Gerald Genta. The watch dial layout was previously changed a few times in its history, But the reference in this video is the 40th anniversary model, and AP released the exactly same dial layout in 2012 to commemorate the original design by Gerald Genta. And here's the second most beautiful and timeless thing about this watch. It comes with the exact same movement as it was back in 1972. Caliber 2121, which was the outcome of business partnership between AP, Patek Philippe, Vacheron Constantin and Jaeger-LeCoultre. This is the same movement originally created by JLC and used in Royal Oak, Nautilus and Vacheron 222 at the time. Caliber 2121 was a basic two-hander movement and by no means had any complications in it. But even after close to 50 years, the aesthetics are so well executed that it remains one of the most beautiful ones in this category. This movement was first produced in 1967 and at that time it was the thinnest full rotor movement in the world. The caliber measured only at 3.05mm and the Royal Oak Jumbo resultantly was and still is very thin watch with case height of only 8.1mm. This is also the reason why this model reference is called extra thin. The movement features an oscillating weight with annular ring running on 4 jewels, a suspended barrel and then the hand-decorated polished bevels, satin finished edges and the 21-carat skeletonized gold rotor with AP logo and the same tapestry squares at the periphery. The movement beats at an unusual frequency of 2.75 Hz or 19,800 vibrations per hour. The movement being 50 years old does come with the limitations that there is no quick date change mechanism, but still has 40 hours of power reserve. Amongst the Holy Trinity brands, AP, Patek and Vacheron, Royal Oak was not only the first luxury watch that introduced the concept of integrated bracelet watch, for Patek to follow with Nautilus and Vacheron with 222, but is now also the only watch that remains true to its original design characters and attributes. Yes, even Nautilus isn't produced anymore in its original case size or with the original JLC movement. Rather, in 2006, Patek increased the size of Nautilus by 1mm and changed the movement to in-house caliber 315. And with Vacheron 222 already replaced with overseas, not only the watch design has changed, but also the similarity with the bracelet or the originality in the design or the size of Vacheron overseas with 222 is close to none. So the Royal Oak Jumbo is virtually not only the first but now also the only steel luxury watch to feature exactly the same case size of 39mm, same design, same dial layout and even the same movement from 1972. And this one aspect makes Royal Oak Jumbo not only very special but historically so significant that there is practically no competition out there. It's either it or none else. This doesn't mean that AP are left behind in developing in-house movements. Rather, AP's approach with production was different and intelligent. They introduced a separate line of Royal Oak to feature an in-house movement with 3 hands and modern cases, with the latest one being 15500, and left out the extra thin jumbo in its original shape and character to mark the history of the brand and showcase the legacy and heritage of the watch. Very thoughtful and intelligent move indeed. The watch on the wrist wears like AP Dream. The size of 39mm in this integrated bracelet design is probably the most beautiful and perfect one I have ever worn since the beginning of this channel and my watch collection. The vision of Genta to sketch a 39mm case at the time when 3D modeling didn't even exist, and the timelessness and perfection of design that even after 50 years the watch isn't imperfect by even 1mm is a history on its own. The design attributes and the iconic octagonal bezel with 8 screws have a vintage vibe and a story to tell you each time you look at the watch. With the bracelet coming with the best in the class manufacturing, Royal Oak is virtually the first watch that made me fall in love and be lost in the stunning way the bracelet and the watch profiles play with the light. And the first watch that I started to stare even at the bracelet and then every link and angle of the link to appreciate little details in the craftsmanship. In the times when mechanical watch industry was about to vanish and become history and the quartz watches were on the rise, Royal Oak Jumbo not only saved the company AP but the whole mechanical watch industry with its revolutionary design and bold statement. The watch that gave the concept of luxury steel watch in the times when luxury watches were only made of precious metals. The integrated bracelet design that changed the idea of traditional watchmaking and shifted the perception of collectors from watches to deliver the function to watches to offer experience. The Royal Oak changed the way the mechanical watchmaking was ever imagined. And then it raised the standards and strengthened the industry so far high up that when we look now or few years back, there was never a smartwatch crisis that ever came into existence. If the Royal Oak had failed to deliver the idea it was meant for, let me tell you today, after the quartz crisis in 70s, history would have marked a digital or smartwatch crisis in 2000s. Royal Oak Extra Thin Jumbo, the only luxury steel watch to exist in its purest form, and the only watch in the world to do a production run of close to 50 years and maintain original looks and heart beating inside. To AP, I have a message. It's not only Gerald Genta who'd be very happy today. It's also the whole community of purists and collectors around the world that share the joy and the pleasure every second the caliber 2121 beats. How amazing it is. We have another example how the concept of obsolescence is again defied.